Hi, everybody. Thank you very much. I always appreciate you hanging out with me for a little bit. I'm Orlando Ruiz Jr., and welcome to another classic movie review. I am talking about a black and white film, a political thriller from 1964, directed by the great Sidney Lumet, who made many classic movies like Serpico, also directed Network, 12 Angry Men, The Verdict, Dog Day Afternoon. But right now I'm talking about 1964's Failsafe. Failsafe is based on a 1962 book of the same name written by Henry Wheeler and Eugene Burdick and stars the great Henry Fonda. You also have Walter Matthau, Dan O'Herlihy. I believe you also have Larry Hagman, Frank Overton, Edward Binns, and Dom DeLuise in a pretty small part in there. And Failsafe is a fictitious cautionary tale that is telling the story of a mysterious computer error or technical error that occurs at the Pentagon that accidentally starts a chain of events that could possibly lead to nuclear war. And this came out just 2 years after the very real Cuban Missile Crisis of October 1962, where there was a 13-hour standoff between the U.S. and Soviets involving nuclear missiles, basically. And so, for people that went to go see this in the theater back in the day in the mid 60s, this must have felt all too real for people. The same year that this movie came out, another very famous movie with a very similar premise also came out from the great Stanley Kubrick, which was, of course, Dr. Strangelove. Only that film was a comedy and a satire of this very situation. But with Failsafe, the movie really plays it straight to create a very earnest and honest depiction of what would happen if this kind of thing actually took place. And because of the directing, because of the screenplay, because of the performances, this feels like a very realistic depiction of that kind of worst case scenario. At the very beginning of the film, when the movie opens, the very first image that you see is kind of distorted and you can't tell what you're looking at. It's a bit fuzzy, and then it slowly comes into focus. But that moment at the very beginning really puts you off kilt and off balance, and the movie basically holds that for you, the viewer, all the way till the very end, so that you feel off balance all the way to the final scene. And when you start the movie, you're kind of watching that opening going, what am I looking at? What is this? It's a little off-putting. And then you get to the final moment, the final scene, and the reaction is basically, oh my god, what am I watching? What is happening? Oh my god, they're really doing this. And yeah, for 1964, whoa, baby. The very first person in the story that we're introduced to of this ensemble cast of actors in the film is the character of General Black, played by actor Dan O'Herlihy, an actor that could do more than just play an evil type like in Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, of which I recently talked about at the end of last October. And of course he was known as the OCP guy in the RoboCop movies, but Dan O'Herlihy had great range as he displays in Robinson Crusoe from 1954, of which he was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actor. And he continued to display that range here in Failsafe, where he plays a character that feels like he has a moral center and definitely feels very different and far removed from the character that he played in Halloween 3. Very soon after this, military officials are able to confirm that the blip they all saw on the big screen at the Pentagon, that they all assumed was an unidentified flying object heading into U.S. airspace, that they all assumed was a threat, turns out it's only a commercial airliner. But by then, it's already too late, and little do they know that this mysterious technical error has occurred that has sent six American fighter jets to Russia to bomb a major Russian city. So big problems there. Before you know it, Henry Fonda enters the picture as the President of the United States, playing one of the best versions of an American president I've ever seen in any film. I love Henry Fonda. Of course, he's terrific in movies like The Grapes of Wrath or 12 Angry Men, obviously, which he also worked with the same director of this film, Sidney Lumet. And like his character from 12 Angry Men, the president that he plays in this film is a person of real humility, of real dignity. He is a person of empathy. He is a voice of reason in this film. Throughout the course of the film, with the help of his interpreter, played by actor Larry Hagman, who many of us remember as JR from Dallas or Major Healy from I Dream of Jeannie, the president engages in a very civil but intense phone negotiation with the Russian president, doing his best to bring an end to the conflict. Also co-starring in the film is screen legend Walter Matthau, who would go on to give flawless comedic performances in films like The Odd Couple or in The Bad News Bears, but in movies like Charade or in this film right here, he displays a tremendous amount of range, playing a more serious kind of character. And with the character that he plays in this movie, Professor Shell, this is a character that in the very first scene we see him in, which is the dinner party scene, we learn a lot about this guy, and we know exactly who this guy is just in the very first scene that he's in. And he's definitely a guy that's all about America. He believes in America's superiority. He believes in nuking the other guy first. While the U.S. president, played by Henry Fonda, is doing his best to resolve the conflict in a peaceful way on the phone and trying to remain optimistic, the character played by Walter Matthau, Professor Shell, is the antithesis of that. He's doing his best to put his influence out there. He wants America, the U.S., to go ahead and bomb Russia. The U.S. president tries his best to communicate by radio to the pilots in the bomber jets to come back to base because it's all been a mistake. But after a certain amount of time, the pilots are trained to ignore those kinds of things because they could be miscommunications by the enemy. And so they completely ignore any kind of calls to bring them back. They even get the pilot's wife on the line to talk them down, but the pilot doesn't, go for it, unfortunately. And then things get very, very tense very, very quickly. And one of the last things I got to bring up about this movie is this movie has absolutely no music score. All you hear throughout the movie besides the dialogue is the sound effects of the gizmos and gadgets of everything that the people use in the background, like all the computers, all the little beeps and people punching buttons. That's pretty much all you hear besides the dialogue. Other than that, no music, none whatsoever. And so the whole experience feels all the more realistic and all the more nail-biting because of it, and because of the very taut script and the very quick pace, because of the excellent performances and just very ahead of its time cinematography and very fast cutting all throughout the film. This movie is an experience that will catch you completely off guard, especially since you know you're going into a black and white 60s movie. When you watch this movie for the first time, you won't be able to be prepared for it. There are no gunfights, there are no fistfights, there are no over-the-top special effects sequences, there are no car chases, and yet through brilliant cinematography, cutting-edge editing, brilliant performances, and great dialogue, you have one of the most suspenseful movies I have ever seen. 4 stars for Failsafe from 1964. A masterpiece of a movie. If you have a soft spot for an excellent thriller, and if you enjoy being on the edge of your seat for 2 hours, then give this one a chance. I know you won't regret it. Thank you all very much for watching this classic movie review. I always appreciate it. If you're into the classics, if you're into movies, if you're into this kind of thing, and if you're new to the channel, hit the bell, become a subscriber. Please don't forget to comment, share, like, always helps out. If you're a returning viewer, thank you very much for all your support. I always appreciate it. And until the next classic movie review, everybody take care of each other. Peace out. God bless.